Hey guys, welcome to Explore the Bible with me. Happy Friday, everybody. The weekend is upon us. So I am actually really excited today because we are going to start talking about narratives. And like I said yesterday, we can learn a lot from the narratives that are in the Bible, whether they are happy narratives or they're painful narratives. Even in the narratives that you're like, why does that even exist? We can learn from. But the first narrative that we see is not one about humans. It's actually God's narrative. It's his narrative of building us a home. And no, God doesn't sin, and no, he doesn't do bad things. But we can learn from his narrative anyway. We can learn comfort from his narrative. We can learn his love from his narrative. And I am so excited to share this with you. The creation story is one of those narratives that I rely on a lot. When things are going crazy in my life, I can step outside. I can see a tree. I can remind myself that I'm standing on solid ground. I can see a river and a lake. I can see animals, whether it's my pets or it's wild animals like squirrels. I can feel the sunshine. And it reminds me, God created this. God created this home for us. And it reminds me about his love for me. And I tell people, if there is a moment in your life where you feel completely out of control, look outside. It will remind you that God is with you. So I am super excited about this. Today we're going to go over just 2 verses. And the reason we're doing that is because these 2 verses are so important for us to understand. It's Genesis 1 and 2. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and verse 2. And the reason we're just going over these 2 verses today is because we are seeing the foundation be built. When you build a house, you build the foundation first. You don't build the roof first. And this is the home that God is creating. So he's building the foundation. God doesn't need a home. God is outside of space, time, all of that. So he doesn't need a place to live. But he's creating a place to live because he knows he's going to create us. I use the NLT version of the Bible, but you can use whatever version you feel comfortable with. So I'm going to read it to us, and then we're going to talk about it. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the deep. Sometimes we skip verse 1 and go directly to verse 2. But that is not what we're supposed to do. God created the heavens and earth. That's the foundation. This giant sphere in space, that's the foundation that we live on. Before there was any trees or anything like that, God said, okay, I need to put humans somewhere. I want to create these humans, so I need to give them a home. Verse 2 then starts talking about how formless it is, how empty it is, how dark it is, how there's only deep water. Now, I want to try to imagine this. I want to try to imagine that there are no trees, no nothing. There's no sunlight or moonlight. It is pitch black. And when I say pitch black, think about the darkest night. And probably amplify that, but maybe 100. And it's hard for me to imagine. I don't know if you were the kid who was afraid of the dark at night and had a nightlight. Or maybe you're the adult like me that is still really creeped out by the dark. Just, I don't like being alone in the dark. But God was. God was alone in this utter and complete darkness. So there was nothing there except for really, really deep ocean, deep water. And I've watched, reality shows about people who live on ships, and I've seen movies, and it looks extra dark when you see these scenes of people at night on the ocean, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from land. Now in these shows and movies and things, they have moonlight and stars, but it still looks extra just dark compared to living in a city, compared to all of that stuff. And I can only imagine the darkness that was surrounding these just deep waters. God was not afraid of the dark. God was not afraid to step into that and say, okay, I've built the foundation. Now I can start building the home for my children. This reminds me of my life being surrounded by darkness. There is darkness in our world, and I don't think a single one of us can deny that. And sometimes we ourselves go through utter and complete darkness. I have had really horrible things happen to me as both a child and an adult. And I look back now and I think to myself just how dark my life was before I let God into my heart at 36 years old. How alone I felt, how empty my life felt. I will say this. I truly 100% believe that God saved me from dying. There have been many times in my life where I was close to death, but He saved me. He rescued me even before I knew He was there. And that's what this darkness reminds me of, is that darkness that I felt my whole life, the empty, alone, terrified feeling that I had. And I just think about it. And I wonder to myself, how did I ever survive that? How did I survive walking through those horrible moments in my life by myself? The answer is God was there. And I'll be honest, I still, to this day, walk through hard, hard times where I'm just like, God, are you with me? Are you here? And that's when I step outside. And that's when I remind myself I can walk into the woods and there are trees that no human has ever touched. Yet they're gigantic. And I can walk through, the woods, and I can see squirrels and all of these things, and no human has taken care of them. But yet they're still there. I have this reminder. God didn't need this reminder. He walked in that utter, incomplete, empty darkness that was the earth at this moment in time. And we also see something else that's amazing to me. And what that is the last part of these two verses, where it says the Spirit of God was hovering over the deep. What's the Spirit of God? That is the Holy Spirit. So we're now seeing God the Father and the Holy Spirit, and they're working together. God is working with the Holy Spirit and having Him there. And isn't that wonderful? Because Jesus tells us that we have the Holy Spirit inside of us. He had to leave so that the Holy Spirit could come and dwell within us. So not only are we not facing our darkness alone, but we have the Holy Spirit that we can say, help me. God doesn't need a nightlight. God doesn't need a protector. God doesn't need somebody to fight his battles for him. He's not afraid of utter and complete darkness, but he knows that we are. He didn't leave it like this. He didn't leave it dark and empty and just full of deep, deep water. He started to create something because he knew humans would not be able to thrive and not be able to survive in this element. But like I said, just like our stories where we have walked in the darkness, the dark had to come before the light came. You know, my grandfather always told me this saying, it's the darkest before the dawn. So right before the sun starts coming up, it is so dark. And that is true. Right now where I am, it's 5:30 in the morning. And my house is quiet. So that's why I'm recording now. And I look outside my window and it is so dark I can't see 2 feet in front of me, in front of my window. That's how dark it is outside. And I can only imagine the darkness that was here. Because this is dark for me. What does a formless, empty, dark earth look like? Thank goodness. Thank God we don't have to know what that means. Thank God that he conquered that before we ever came on the scene. We don't ever have to deal with this formless, empty earth that God had to deal with, that God stepped into. So I don't know. I don't know what darkness you're in. I don't know what painful situation you're dealing with. But I want you to know you're not alone. You're not by yourself. God is walking with you in it. And I understand it can be hard to see that. Sometimes you feel like you are walking in this empty void of nothing. But I would recommend going outside, looking around at the trees or the grass or the sky, seeing the sun, seeing the clouds, at night, seeing the stars. My prayer for you today is that you can call on God if you're walking through dark times right now. You can know he is right there fighting your battles with you and for you. He loves you. You are his child. So as I close today, I hope that you can see that God's love is all around you. His promise to take care of you is all around you. And I know it's hard. I walk through very hard, painful times even right now. But I remind myself that I'm not alone. And even in those painful times, it seems just a little bit brighter knowing that God is there. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day today, and I hope you enjoy God's promise that's all around. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Have a great day. Bye.